What is going on YouTube? Today I'm going to be tier listing some of the most popular TCGs out there. I've played most of these games, but there's a couple categories for the games that I haven't played as well. So we're going to start out here with Altered. I haven't actually played Altered. I do know about the QR code system where you can scan the QR codes to add them to your collection. I do think that's interesting, but I'm going to put this in not interested because for one, it's dead, and for two, the whole system that they have with uniques where you can get actual physical cards that are physically different from other cards, I think that's nonsense, and that is something that I'm not interested in. Then we have, I'm going to group all three of these, Digimon, Hololive, and Vice Schwartz. I had to look up how to pronounce this. All three of these I'm unfortunately also going to put in haven't played, not interested. These are not ordered, by the way, but all three of these are just like anime style games, and unfortunately that aesthetic doesn't really appeal to me all that much. I do think Digimon has a pretty cool resource system where it has like the counter that goes between players, and if you use an expensive card on your turn, then the opponent can have a more expensive, they can play a more expensive like card on their turn as well. So if you play something expensive, then they get extra resources on their turn is what I'm trying to say. I think that's pretty cool. Hololive and Vice Force, I didn't look too in-depth into their rules, but just from the aesthetics alone, I don't think I would play them. Also, the thing with these three is there's no local scene in my area for any of them, so I'm not going to get into a card game that I'm not interested in, and there's no local players. Now, One Piece, I actually haven't played as well, but I have a local scene here for it, and I've had some friends tell me I need to play it. I think it was also a pretty popular result on my YouTube poll that I made a couple weeks ago about what game I should play next. One Piece, I did look up the mechanics. I looked up the basic rulebook for this. It seemed pretty interesting. I like the concept of the Dawn, I don't know the name of the resource, but the resource deck off to the side. I do like that they have prize cards, kind of like Pokemon, but instead of you getting them as you knock out your opponent's Pokemon, you get them as you take damage. So it's like a comeback mechanic as opposed to Snowbally. So I think that's pretty interesting. Overall, I would say I am interested. The couple things that hold me back from it are, I guess the main thing is I don't like the anime aesthetic in general. And so I think I would get over that and still have a good time, but it's just not something that I'm personally a massive fan of. Not that I hate it, it's just not my thing. And Flesh and Blood. This one was actually pretty cool. I did play the, they have an official like learn to play tutorial, like a little web app that I used. It was actually pretty interesting. This one, more than any other game that I've played, kind of reminded me of a fighting game because you're like refilling your hand at the end of turn. You're using like different combos and then refilling your hand to like deal damage and prevent your opponent from dealing damage. It seemed really, really interesting. And I would actually love to give this a shot. I'll probably play this pretty soon on like a simulator or something. I think there is a local scene, but it's pretty small. So I'd give this a shot. It seems pretty interesting. And finally, the last game that I haven't played is Disney Lorcana. It's also not anime, but I'm still not that interested in it, to be honest. The Disney aesthetic is just not something that I particularly care for. And I think there is also a small local scene for it. It's just kind of like if I was to play Disney Lorcana, I think I'd rather just play Magic because, like, sure, this game doesn't have lands in the deck, but it has, like, cards that you have to pay for with mana. And there's, like, combat and stuff, and it's like, the differences between Lorcana and Magic aren't big enough for me that I'd rather just play Magic. Now, of the games that I have played, we've knocked out 7 of them. I've played the rest of these games. Starting with Artifact, easy F tier. This game is like very bad. I did not play 2.0, mind you. I did just play the original. I played it on release back when Axe Coin, if you remember that. Axe Coin was the meme, and it was like a $30 card on the Steam Marketplace. My biggest issues with Artifact is number one, you had to buy the game and then you had to buy the cards. That was stupid. And then the other issue that I had was more so with the gameplay, because even if buying the cards was stupid, I still would have put money into it if it was fun, but my issue was with Artifact, I just didn't find it all that fun, because what I found was you would just arrange your dudes on your side of the battlefield. Your opponent would arrange their dudes on their side of the battlefield. And then you'd just end your turn, and then the dudes would kind of just like slam into each other at the end of the turn. It seemed like the game just played itself. And so I wasn't a big fan of that, so Artifact in F tier. I did play a lot of Dota 2 in high school though, and so that does help a little bit of perception because I think Dota 2's universe is cool, but it's still F tier, I'm sorry. Elestrals. I really wanted to like Elestrals. So, fun fact actually, A-Drive, the creator of Elestrals, he responded to one of my tweets and he sent me a lot of cool swag. And I do appreciate that. I did give it a shot. I played it with my partner. And it was a decent time. It was definitely Yu-Gi-Oh! Inspired, for sure. And the combos seemed pretty neat. My biggest issue with Elestrals is I just don't love the art style. Like, if I'm gonna get into a game with cute characters, or cute characters as like the design inspiration, and I look at your cards and I don't really like the aesthetic of the cards, it's not really a good sell for me. And as far as the combos go, the game kind of felt like, because every time you played cards, it would drain your resource deck, and once your resource deck was out, you would lose. And so the game was like, if you had a combo and then it just got interrupted, it just felt really punishing. You do one big combo and then suddenly you have no more resources. I'm sure this gets better with experience, but when I played it, it just kind of ended abruptly. You do a combo, and that was kind of all you could do that game. And so I wasn't the biggest fan. It had some cool ideas for sure, but it wasn't my favorite, and so I'm sorry, A-Drive. I really am, but I'm gonna have to put this in D tier. I was not a big fan. Hearthstone. This one is tough. I have not played Hearthstone since about 2016, 2017. So this is early Hearthstone. Think like Curse of Naxxramas, Goblins vs. Gnomes, Blackrock Mountain. When I think of Hearthstone, I think of Dr. Boom. I think of Big Game Hunter. I think of Sludge Belcher. So keep that in mind. That being said, Hearthstone, when it was fun, it was S tier. But when it was bad, it was D tier. And the issues with Hearthstone were, especially when I was a teenager growing up, I didn't have a credit card and my parents wouldn't let me use theirs or anything. And so I had to play this free to play. And the expansions were expensive and I could never buy them with cash because, again, I didn't have a credit card. My parents didn't let me spend money on the game. And so it was pretty limiting as a free to play player. I did eventually buy the Naxxramas expansion, but there are just a lot of things I didn't have access to, and building decks took a long time. I think it took about a month or two just to build one new deck. And it was, mind you, I was addicted to this for about a year. It was a great time. I wish I could go back and play it now, but the Hearthstone of now has got a completely different game. And also Blizzard Lamau. So I'm going to have to put old Hearthstone in B tier. And that might be ranking it too high, but I did have a lot of good times with this, and I don't think I could rank it any lower. So we're going to put this in B tier. Legends of Runeterra. Wow. If you followed me, you've known that I love Legends of Runeterra, and I'm very sad that the game is dead. Economy alone would put it in S tier. It is very similar to Magic, but being very similar to Magic, but having a functional economy and having the back and forth that you would do with your actions, I think made it different enough that I enjoyed it a lot. I think I'm going to put this in S tier just because it's economy alone and the gameplay was good. There were some times where the meta was bad, and if the meta was bad, it was like a B or a C tier, but in retrospect, I wish this game was still alive, man. It's so sad that this game's dead. Magic. We'll do Magic before Commander. Magic is so tough because I loved Magic. Other than like playing Pokemon as like a 5-year-old for a few years growing up, Magic was the game that really got me to fall in love with card games. I played it in my freshman and sophomore year. I played it freshman, sophomore year of college after high school. I tried playing it again a couple years ago. When Magic was good, if Magic now was like Magic in 2015, easy top S tier. But the problem with Magic, I know it's been said to death, but I'm just not a big fan of Universes Beyond. I'm not a big fan of 6-set Standard. I'm not a fan of all of the rampant power creep. Because I used to play Modern as well. And 2019 Modern, back when Snapcaster Mage was one of the best cards and Path to Exile was everywhere before all the Modern Horizons nonsense, that was a really good time. That was also S tier. But looking at what Magic has become now, with all of the Universes Beyond, and like Modern not being what it used to be, it's tough. I think we'll put it top of B tier because I still think this is my favorite core rule set of any game I've ever played. Or any TCG I've ever played, mind you. But the game I loved doesn't exist anymore, so I can't really go back and play it, so I'll have to put it in B tier, I think. Commander is a C tier. Commander was really fun when I played it casually with friends, but the more time passes, the more Wizards has pivoted to Commander, and not that that's a bad thing, but from what I've noticed is I just thought Commander was the best when Commander was full of cards that were designed for tabletop casual that just happened to be good in this Battlecruiser fan-made format. I don't like it when Wizards is printing cards just specifically to be good in Commander, and that's kind of all they do now. And also, Commander was never my favorite way to play. Commander was like, oh, I'm just going to hang out with friends and have this thing going on in the background while we kind of just like mess around. It's kind of like how I play League of Legends these days. I don't take it seriously. It's just background stuff to have while I'm messing around with friends. So I think C tier is about where Commander goes, because it is still a good time. And like, if I had decks, I would still play it occasionally with friends for fun. Unfortunately, I can't put Commander higher than C tier. Pokemon TCG as a whole, and by as a whole I mean the game, not the collector scalper stuff, goes in S tier. It's really good. Now I have issues with the current format, and that's what I'm going to get to next, but as a whole, Pokemon TCG, this might be a hot take, but I don't think your game needs interaction on your opponent's turn to be a good game. Like I said, Hearthstone doesn't have any of that. I had a really good time playing Hearthstone back in the day. Same with Pokemon. Pokemon doesn't have hand traps, it doesn't have counter spells. Okay, it has one, and I'll throw that up on the screen, but that's a 20-year-old card at this point. And so, you have interaction, and you have, like, hand disruption, so if your opponent has a bunch of cards in their hand, you can disrupt them to have them have fewer cards in their hand. I think you should give Pokemon a shot if you haven't already. I understand that it won't be for everyone, and that's fair. I know some people really, really care about the back and forth that you can have on a given turn. Personally, I think Pokemon, where it doesn't have depth in that, it has a lot of depth in sequencing and analyzing board states and knowing what specifically is the best move to make at a given time. So I think Pokemon, it is definitely a lot simpler as a rule set, but it's still a very skill-intensive game, especially at the high levels. It's very deceptively skill-intensive too, and I might make a video about that, but there's a lot of concepts that you learn as you make that transition from like beginner, intermediate player to like actually someone who makes top cut at your locals. And mastering those things is what makes Pokemon really rewarding. Also, very underrated part about Pokemon is it is one of the least RNG dependent games out there. A lot of these other games like Magic or Runeterra or Hearthstone were super dependent on what cards you drew off the top, but Pokemon has so much tutoring and it has so much card draw that it makes it so the RNG is really, really diminished. It's not that it's not there, you still have, you're still drawing cards off the top, but you have cards that are like shuffle your hand into your deck and draw 8, or Pheasantipty, draw 3 cards. Like, the card draw is insane, and there's so many different search effects that it makes decks a lot more consistent, and I value that a lot in card games. So Pokemon as a whole, I would put here. It also helps a lot that Pokemon, by design, is made to be affordable. I know this is the common meme on Twitter. Everyone talks about Pokemon is so cheap all the time, but it is true. Our meta decks are like very, very, very rarely over $100, and I think right now most of them are like around 50 to 70. So very affordable game. Now, I had to add this because it's funny. The current meta of Pokemon is pretty bad. I would still rather play it than like Alestrals. I don't think I'd play this above Commander. So I'll have to put this in bottom of C tier. It's just very stale. Dragapult is like 40% of day 2s. I'm not a big fan of like one deck metas. And so that's why I haven't been playing a ton of Pokemon lately, is because I don't like the meta right now. Pokemon TCG Live. If this was purely economy, top S tier. If this was functionality as like a game, bottom F tier, because this game is broken as all hell. But if we combine those two, like, it works about 80% of games. 80 to 90% of games, you won't have PTCGL bugs. And sometimes it's more stable and sometimes it's a lot less stable. There's been some periods where it was like around January or February of 2025 last year, where all of the top meta decks had bugs because Pokemon TCG Live introduced a new feature to add energy and stuff to other Pokemon without having to drag them on. You just clicked on them, and that broke the whole client for like a week. It was really bad. But overall, I think given everything, it does work most of the time. Very tilting when it breaks, but also works most of the time, and you literally cannot spend money in this game. Like, I think it has to go bottom of B tier. I think a lot of Pokemon players take this game for granted because of all the bugs and how ugly it is, but the fact is, if you just care about free-to-play, the only free-to-play card game that's better than Pokemon TCG Live is Legends of Runeterra, and that game is basically dead. So that alone makes it really appealing to me. If you wanted to put it in C tier because you hate the bugs, or F tier because it's ridiculous that Pokemon hasn't made anything better despite being the biggest media franchise in the world, I can't blame you too much. But me personally, I really value having a game that is free and very accessible more than anything else, so I'll put it here. Pocket, easy F tier. Riftbound, no, I'm just kidding. Pocket, I am not a big fan of Pocket. Pocket it's too dumbed down for my taste. I understand that other people will like it, but for me, it's just too simplified. From what I've heard, the economy's horrible. I played this a little bit when it first came out in the first set. I can't remember what it was called, but the first set that was ever released. It's kind of the opposite of TCG Live. If this is like a very poorly made game, but the game itself is good, Pocket is like a very well-made game, but the game itself is not that great to me. And the economy, I've heard, is pretty predatory as well. I could never build the meta deck back when I started playing, so I just kind of lost interest. As a pack opening simulator, I'd probably put it in A tier, but this is just ranking the games. So we'll put this in F tier. Star Wars Unlimited. This was like fine. My big issue with Star Wars was it just felt like a mix of Magic and Runeterra, which might make you think I should put it here, but Star Wars Unlimited just felt really uninspired. I'm not a big fan of the Star Wars IP. Like, I liked the original movies, but that's about it. I'm not like a huge like fangirl or anything. It just felt like this game was trying to be Magic, but we fixed the land system. And if that's your main hook of the game, I'd rather just play Magic and deal with mana screw. I know it also had alternating actions like Legends of Runeterra and attacking your opponent's units like Old Hearthstone, but I don't know. To me, it wasn't really the sum of all of its parts. Sorry, this should go in C tier, not D tier. It wasn't really the sum of all of its parts, and it just felt kind of uninspired. I didn't love the arts. I played it a few times, and I was just like, okay, I get why people play it, but it's not for me. Riftbound. Oh boy, Riftbound. This game was really tough because I really wanted to like Riftbound. My partner and I have been playing League together for years. I first started playing League back in like 2017, which was about 9 years ago now. And I really liked the IP. I loved Arcane. Everything like that was cool. I wanted this to be an S tier because it also borrows a lot of mechanics from Magic. Like has a similar like priority system where you play spells. Has the mana system. I know the mana system has its own deck, kind of like One Piece, but very clearly Magic inspired. Has a comprehensive rulebooks, which is a huge plus. But I just played it, and my issue with Riftbound was when I played it, it just kind of felt like you send your dudes to battlefields, you try and capture them, and you use combat tricks to take them, and then you score points. And then if your opponent has combat tricks, you lose the combat. If you can beat their combat tricks, you win. Like, it just didn't feel all that interesting to me when I played it. Now, granted, I was playing in the base expansion, but it just didn't really interest me. I am going to put this in bottom of C tier, but I do want to revisit this at some point, and I get the feeling that if I revisited it, it could easily jump up to like A tier for me. But from what I've played now, I did not enjoy this all that much. And finally, Yu-Gi-Oh! I promise I didn't put this last for any reason of like trying to hold your attention. I promise you this is only last in this list because it's alphabetical. Other than the ones I hadn't played, I moved those to the front. But Yu-Gi-Oh! Is really tough. I think when Yu-Gi-Oh! Is really good, I think it's I think I would probably put Yu-Gi-Oh when it's really good. Probably about here. When Yu-Gi-Oh is bad, you get some non-games. It honestly feels here. But Yu-Gi-Oh! Oh, this is tough because I want to put it in A tier because it feels pretty good most of the time. Master Duel is not Pokemon TCG Live levels of generous, but it is possible to make your own decks if you play long enough. You can build about one every 4 to 6 weeks in my experience. When the game is good and it's cheap, it's accessible. Right now, I don't think it's all that cheap because you have all those cards like Hydraulis Harmonia, you have the Forbidden Crown, you have all the Dominus cards. Right now it's pretty expensive, but you don't need most of them, but to play at optimal 100%, lots of people would say you would need them. It's really tough because it either goes here or here. Definitely above Magic. I like Yu-Gi-Oh more than Magic at this point. I don't know. I think I would put Yu-Gi-Oh probably. I've had a good time playing it. There's no reason I stopped playing it other than I just kind of stopped playing card games for a little bit. Or not stopped, but I just haven't played them for a little bit. So we'll put this in A tier because I haven't played Yu-Gi-Oh and thought, wow, this game sucks. I've had lots of Yu-Gi-Oh games where I was like, wow, this game was really good. It was super close. I'm glad I grinded that out, or if I hadn't done this specific move, I would have lost. I think Yu-Gi-Oh is very rewarding once you get into it, and I recommend you give it a try, but if you do, you will struggle early, and that's just how it is. But I'm glad I learned it, and I will get back into playing it at some point, I promise. The next video I make will have Yu-Gi-Oh content in there, as well as other games. It's more of a crossover video. But yeah, anyways, thank you guys for watching. Remember to give it a like and a subscribe if you enjoyed it, and you guys all have a good day.